Hello and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Scenes with our Execs. Today we are talking to Butch, which has another beautiful region, Eastern Cape, where all the windy and friendly people are from. Butch, please introduce yourself to us.
Thanks, Jolene. My name's Butch Coetzee. I'm Executive Director for Boracay and Nelson Mandela Bay region in the Eastern Cape. Have been involved there since 2005. Been a while.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, you're also the only current ED that wasn't a member first before becoming an ED.
That's correct, yes. I was asked at the time to start. I came across the BNI concept in Port Elizabeth by visiting a friend of mine, and they had just launched their first chapter there, and I thought, this is a fantastic opportunity for my business that I was in, which was video and television productions. And and I got back to East London and phoned Mike Levine, the National Director, and I said, Mike, I'm very keen to get involved in BNI. Where do I sign up? And he says, well, where are you? I said, I'm in East London. He said, there's nothing there. So are you prepared to start something? I didn't know what horse I was saddling at the time, but so I said, how difficult can that be? Anyway, that's how we got going. Started with the first group of people in November in 2005, which is, as you know, quite the wrong time of the year to try and start anything. Everybody's getting ready for finishing off of the year and going on holiday, etc., etc. But I first got our first little group together, and then the first chapters launched in February, and then we launched 4 chapters within like 4 months, we launched 4 chapters. And It just took off like wildfire. I was absolutely blown away. From people telling me the concept is great, but it's never going to work in the Eastern Cape or in the East London area. It was quite a mind blow experience when it all sort of took off. And so here we are.
Do you think the region would be different if you were a member first?
I think in hindsight, being a member, obviously you got a different perspective on things. You go through the whole thing, but because there was nothing there, and as much as I tried to be a member to start off with, it didn't actually work that way because you had to take the lead. And that was another thing, overcoming, I think one of the questions, like overcoming your fear was public speaking. I was behind the camera. So all of a sudden you get trusted. So I was directing and doing my thing from behind the lens, and all of a sudden you're in front of the lens, type of safer can coin a phrase. So so the public speaking didn't come that naturally to me, and it was quite difficult. And then also the caliber of businesses that wanted to get involved with BNI. I mean, these are long-standing businesses in East London and even the Port Elizabeth area. Now here's little Joe, me, trying to tell them about business and how to do better business. So it was that was quite challenging and nerve-wracking at the same time. Because you're now going into a member success program training setup, and here are these guys sitting in front of you with expectations of you telling them what to do next. So that was daunting, but as you got involved with it, it forced me into avenues that I never thought I would actually go into, and I joined Toastmasters as an example, just to overcome that fear of public speaking. And then it becomes, not knowing at the time even that BNI would give me some of that training anyway, but just to fast track myself, I did all of those type of things to get more comfortable talking to what I perceive to be high profile business people in the region. What
is the biggest milestone for you in your region or in BNI?
A milestone for me would be obviously establishing the chapters that's currently operating and giving people that opportunity. I think we sometimes underplay or underestimate the effect that we have on businesses and what they can gain from being involved with BNI, the relationships that they're building up there. And it's not all about the money. Is obviously the pulling factor that gets people involved in the BNI concept, but it's also then spills over into the relationship that's being formed. And I'm still very good friends with people that were, and there's been, if I have to count back over the years, the 20 years of BNI now, how many people I've been involved in and that came through the BNI system. I'm still very good friends with all of them. You know, so maybe one not, maybe there's one. Maybe there's one not, but anyway. But you know, so I think that from a milestone point of view, yeah, it's a difficult one in a way, because you're impacting people in so many different ways, unbeknownst in a way. You're not really all that aware. You're so busy focusing on all the BNI stuff, you know, and making sure everything's run according to the system and following the recipe and all of that stuff. And then you hear people talk to you afterwards and say, this is what BNI's meant for me and this is what BNI's done for me. And I really noticed that during COVID, when we pivoted all onto Zoom, where BNI literally, and I mean this seriously, that it saved people's lives.
Yeah. Because
some industries, like what my son took over the video production side of things, dead completely. My daughter was in catering, dead.
Yeah.
They had no income whatsoever, and through the BNI system and the relationships that had been built up, new avenues were opened up for them in smaller ways, but they were still able to, you know, have purpose, I think, and that was a big thing. A lot of people lost hope, and I mean, I spoke to a very good friend of mine who was a pastor in East London, and during that time, the amount of suicide funerals he had to do was astounding, actually.
I think mentality-wise, that was
hard.
A very good move for BNI to go online.
It was, as I say, and I mean it sincerely, it was life-saving. And I saw people, I remember the guy that used to do a lot of our staging and AV setups and that, and he was quite handy with his hands. His staging, his setting up for conferences and that is dead. And then people said, well, you know, my offices are closed. Can you come in and do a little bit of handyman work and repaint the office or put in new shelves? And he did that, and that was the income. And I mean, I can call that out now, and you can speak to him and hear it straight from his mouth, how BNI saved his livelihood during that time. You know, where members rallied around each other, supported each other. It was a difficult phase for a lot of people, but it was phenomenal for the whole BNI family, BNI world to pivot onto Zoom. It was amazing. Yeah. So that's definitely a big milestone as well. Yeah.
In your experience, what is the 1, 2, maybe 3 things that is those things that helps constantly with a chapter growth and a chapter strength?
3 things. Sure. Okay. I think, you know, once you've got your the culture in the chapter on the right footing, makes a big difference in it, you know. But that also boils down back again to relationships that you've got with the people and how they see their roles in the group as well, you know, and taking it here and seeing the bigger picture, because that's something I think we all struggle with as EDs as well, is trying to get the information across to people. Because you see people periodically, you're not in their space every day like a member is, or like the president is at the meeting every week. So you come across and you visit them every 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks or whatever, and you want to instill that information. So that's one thing. So the culture is definitely one thing. And relationships, I think, definitely plays a big role in cementing that, bringing that culture all together in one line as well. And then obviously the success that the guys are getting out of BNI, you know, when they get all that and they start seeing the bigger picture and the little lights go on and they see, okay, this thing actually works, you know. I always say, I think there was a slide once we did a little bit of training and not so long ago actually, and it says on the slide, can you guarantee somebody's success in BNI? And on the slide it says, no, we can't guarantee that success, but I'm saying yes, I can, if they follow the system. If you follow the system and not stop kicking against it and stop trying to reinvent the wheel and just follow it, not necessarily blindly. We all, it's entrepreneurs you're talking to, like kings and queens of their own castle, but you still want them to just follow this recipe. Like we always say, it's an old added saying that we say, we've got a recipe for a chocolate cake. Why are you messing with that recipe? Otherwise you're not going to get a chocolate cake. And it's the same within BNI. And until people accept that, and then they start seeing the success, and then the job's almost done.
Yeah, entrepreneurs, a funny bunch of people.
They are. It's like, when whoever coined the phrase, I know Ivan Meisner talks about it a lot, but it's like herding cats. And it really is, it's to try and get everybody just to pull together. And we still today have conversations with people who think they know better. They might have a lot of knowledge. I had an accountant one day stood up in a chapter meeting and he said to me, Butch, I've got 3 degrees, an MBA, whatever, and he said, I've learned so much in my 2 years in BNI that I can't tell you. The amount of information that I've got and the knowledge that I've gained that you wouldn't get anywhere else, So, and that's another thing, dealing with, I always say to people in a meeting, so how was your training today? And they're like, look at you like, what are you talking about? I said, well, you've just been trained by your real estate person, your tax practitioner, your accountant. You're getting it straight from the horse's mouth. This is valuable information, and information is power. So how are you going to use it? And one of my biggest success stories is a group of guys who got to know each other so well in their chapter. They started a little consortium, and the builder was one, attorney was one, there was a landscaper, and a guy that does telecommunications. And what they did was the builder said, listen, I'm busy with the new development. Let's buy a spec house together, the 4 of them. Now the spec house then, I'm talking quite a few years ago, maybe 13 years ago, the spec house might have cost them 800,000. So let's call it 400,000. And they each put in that little bit. Now you share it by 4. And they bought another one and another one and another one. And I bumped into one of them the other day. They've all left BNI, by the way. But I bumped into him. He said, we must still be your biggest success story in BNI. I said, why? I said, well, our property portfolio is nearly 80 million rand.
Wow. Wow.
So they own, now they're property magnates or whatever you want to call it. So it's quite amazing. And that's one story. There's many stories of people almost changing tact completely from what they started off in BNI to where they ended up, and people offering new opportunities to them. So you just got to be open for those opportunities when they come along. And, so there's lots of those. Your
region is quite a bit rural, undeveloped areas, and we all struggle with that. But I think the Eastern Cape is kind of the highlight with that. How does that impact your leadership style and how you approach people when you're trying to start a new chapter?
Interesting question as well. I think you got to connect with them on a more human level. They want the touchy-feely bits, and that's why a lot of chapters struggled with Zoom to a degree as well. We're dealing with settlers. If we go back in history, we've got the 1820 settlers landed in Port Elizabeth, which is the British settlers, and then the German settlers landed in, after the Crimean War and whatever, landed in the Boracay area. And those guys, they want to look in the eye and shake your hand. So you got to connect with them on that level, and I don't know. It's not simplicity, but it's just a case of speaking their language, and being there for them, and always. One of the things, so to go back to a COVID thing, what I did in my region, I sent every member a personal email just to tell them that I'm there and haven't got away, and that type of thing. So people appreciate that, and then the feedback I got from that interaction as well has always been very positive. So people they want to see you, they want you to be in touch with them on that level all the time. So look at stats and that, but they're not that driven as maybe in your more developed regions. So I think that's one thing that might be a little bit different. And you're also sitting with a highly depressed, economically depressed region as well, and especially this year has been quite tough with the motor industry being so volatile at the moment. We've lost nearly 90,000 jobs in the Eastern Cape. Now, if you want to look at that, I say to people, if you want to realize the scale of that, that's maybe 3 Loftus Versfeld, or at least 2 of them, full to capacity. You know what the stadium looks like when it's full, and that's how many people have lost their jobs. So you must know the impact that has had down the line. So the psyche is not that great at the moment, but you've got to try and stay positive, and they do, and there's pockets of it, but so yeah, I think, and that's where BNI also has a role to play, by giving people that opportunity to take their business to another level again.
Well, talking about the economic distress currently, how do you see your chapters contributing to the local businesses and the local community in the next 5 years?
The scope is so big, because you've now got also, you've got your new entrepreneurs coming online from your black communities more and more, and a lot of them are looking at BNI as well. So I've got quite a few guys looking at that, and so the demographics is changing quite a bit in that space, and there's another network again of people that can have a huge impact on your BNI region as well. But yeah, it's a process, and there's no quick fix. Like BNI is not a get rich quick scheme. So with trying to get installed people the method of BNI and how the system works, because BNI is, in a sense, is just a system. It's how well you use that system. We equate it to a gym. All the tools are there, all the weights are there, the swimming pool is there, everything's there for you to get the body or the shape that you want. If you don't use them, nothing's going to happen. So it's a case with BNI as well. We're supplying all the tools, all the training that's needed, but if they don't effectively get involved in it, then it's going to be not beneficial to them. So coming back to your question, it's a case of, as I said, the sky is really the limit. It's just to get the word out there, because BNI is still the best kept secret. Still a lot of people that don't know about it when you talk to them about BNI, and they're very intrigued when you start explaining to them how it works. Then people are quite intrigued. I just had a chat with a guy the other day. He was a professor in economics at Fort Hare, and he was quite involved. He was quite intrigued, should I say, with what I was telling him and how BNI works. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that was Butch Coetzee from East London. Thank you very much for spending your time with us.
Okay.
And if you haven't done it yet, please remember to like, follow and subscribe, because we've got more info coming.